3, 2. Okay. We have the GOAT, the man, the myth, the legend. I wouldn't even he's not a myth because he's here in real time. Bryan Broadus, how you doing?
I'm doing excellent, Foots. Thank you so much for having me on today. It's good to be with you again.
You got a day off. Well, the team has a day off, but you are the hardest working, most humble person. It's like I'm able to. It's actually a great lesson in life. As much as you've elevated, you still make time for people like myself. Vach, you're all over the net, and rightfully so, man. I think that your calling is this, bro, because you're great at what you do. And I'm going to give you flowers every time I have you on, and I appreciate you for coming on.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. I love the platforms, love the opportunities. I think Vach he's even more famous than me. I think if Vach was out here in Oxnard, he'd be the king of the rudder room, and he'd be the king of the sidelines. And I've seen Law out here a bunch. He's been hanging out. He's been signing autographs and patting people on the back and in the middle of all of everything. But no, it's been a really good camp. I'm excited to my guys at 105.3 The Fan. They went home Friday. They made it back at 5:30 in the morning yesterday. So but they left me behind, and I'm happy to be left behind because I got to see the blue-white practice. I thought it was a really, really good day. Probably one of the best padded practices that they've had in a long time. And I appreciate the fact that Mike McCarthy is practicing with some purpose now. And he's, and Mike Zimmer is making it hard on these quarterbacks to have to read defenses. And so really super competitive day yesterday that I'm sure you and I will get into quite a bit.
Bryan, you kind of took the lead, and let's stay right there. I mean, listen, shout out to Vach, shout out to Law, both my brothers. Shout out to Bryan. You're one of my brothers now. Bryan Broadus, I tweeted this, and I said, I cannot remember the last time I've seen practices this back and forth, and forth. Competitive, chippy, but we're still seeing go work. Bryan, what did you see? You kind of got into it just now. What did you see in the blue and white scrimmage that has you saying, maybe this team could be something? I saw some things schematically, but you're on the ground. So what did you see?
Well, I tell you what, I had the opportunity to work with DallasCowboys.com, and get to do it from a television aspect. And then for DallasCowboys.com, we did it for Channel 21 in Dallas, and then we also did it for DallasCowboys.com. So really appreciate, that opportunity, that platform. It was super competitive, especially when it came down to moving the ball. It came down to they gave the defense points for stops. They gave the offense points, of course, for scoring. What you're seeing right now is defensively that Mike Zimmer has this crew locked into assignment football. And I mean assignment football in the way of when it calls for certain coverages, it's done. When it calls for certain blitzes, it's done. We all know what happened the last time this football team played. It wasn't very good against the Green Bay Packers. It was, to be honest with you, though, there were so many missed assignments. And it's not that things are perfect out here right now, but you see receivers, and these receivers, it's not CeeDee Lamb, but it's Cooks, it's Ferguson, it's Brooks, and Tolbert. Those guys, I mean, they're trying to have good practices too. And they're having to deal with corners that are not Diggs. But, guys like Carson out here, you look at what he's been able to do. Jordan Lewis has been super competitive in the practices. Donovan Wilson has been – I was kind of thinking about, okay, Donovan Wilson, how well are you going to cover? There's been some times where Mike Zimmer has thrown him into those situations. McQuamu, Wright – I mean, these guys have had, the older guys have had some opportunities, are kind of fighting for roster spots right now. You've seen it from the safeties with Hooker, Josh Butler. I mean, you could just kind of go down the list of guys that this is a very, very competitive group when you start to look at how, Mike's playing, using them. I got to give Al Harris a lot of credit. Al Harris taking over from Joe Witt as the secondary coach. It's his group of guys. They rally to the ball. They're physical. It hurts them when they give up a play. When they make a mistake, Al Harris is there correcting. They're not waiting till they get back into the dining hall or the meeting rooms back here behind me to correct. They're correcting on the field. And they're coaching these guys hard on the defensive side. Jeff Sagina, the defensive line coach, is coaching hard. I mean, and you know what? Nobody's safe from Jeff Sagina, but he wants it done a certain way. And I really like what I'm seeing with the defense. And I think, Aisha Morris and I were talking about this yesterday. I love picking her brain about this stuff because she watches
she's
so
solid.
She's so solid. And so we're talking about it. She's like, Bryan, this team defense might be pretty good if they can find them some defensive tackles.
Yeah.
If they figure out the 1 and the 3 technique. If they could figure that out, because you could see – what they've got with Nealon. I mean, Nealon has come on board as a rookie and playing the left side, playing the right side. Put Parsons over there against Steele. Steele it was everything Steele could do to hold off Parsons yesterday.
Yeah.
And then you got on the other side, you got Awesome Richards, who is having to take reps because of Chuma Doga's back is bothering him right now. And then also, Guyton has dealing with an illness. It was a full day. That was a full day of Awesome Richards playing left tackle. And you know what? Kid held up pretty well. Him and Nealon went at it pretty good. And so, I mean, it's a very competitive practice, and I'm not trying to blow smoke up anybody's rear and try and be Cowboy Homer guy, because I had my questions. Questions about, but Mike McCarthy, I got to give him credit. They're practicing the way that you can get something. This isn't like a Jimmy Johnson, Austin bloodbath practice where it's Oklahoma drills and all that. But I think he's working on the toughness of his team. He's taking advantage of the weather, and these guys are not having to survive the practice. They're practicing, and they're getting a lot of good reps. And you're right, to your point on your tweet, it's gone back and forth. Yesterday was one time you see a really nice play, nice catch, nice throw. Next play, you see a receiver a defensive back knocking down a ball or ripping a ball out of Tolbert's hands or something like that. And so, I've really appreciated how it went yesterday.
Listen, before we go any further, Bryan, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor of today's video, BetUS. You're not just a spectator with BetUS. If you're looking for odds, NFL futures, Cowboys futures, live in-game betting, BetUS has you covered. Plus, new customers get 125% sign-up bonus. So that's pretty good if you use code word FootsTheKing. The link is in the description box. We got Bryan Broadus here. Thank you so much, and thank you to our dynamic sponsors, BetUS. Now, Bryan, you're absolutely not Homer guy. Bryan Broadus is actually gonna tell you the truth guy. I wanna circle back to one player, and then we're gonna get into these rookies, and I'm gonna let you enjoy California a little bit longer.
Okay,
Bryan, what's the truth when it comes to one Mazi Smith? You have a side of fans who are watching drill work. They're watching Jeff cuss him out, and I think they're taking that as it's not good. Then you have the defensive coordinator say, Mazi's doing what we're asking him to do.
Right.
Scout, coach, football savant, Bryan Broadus, what do you see? Is it panic time? Is it just everybody hold your horses? But give me the truth, Bryan. Like, I really want to know.
Yeah, I think it's somewhere in between.
Okay.
There's been days, and I think the last couple of days have been better for Mazi. And I believe this about Mazi. I believe how Mazi plays or how practice goes affects how he practices. If he starts off, there's been a couple of times where he's shown the ability with some power. He's a strong guy. They're working really hard with him on his hands. They're working really hard on his feet. He's a strong guy. He's capable of walking guards, centers back into the quarterback. He's never going to be a great pass rusher. That's just not his thing. You were hopeful that maybe he would be a little bit quicker. He's trying his best at that. He lost all that weight, thinking, okay, I got to get quicker, I got to get off the ball. But they're working hard with him on technique. Some days it looks fine. Other days he gets caught up on blocks. I think he's like anybody else out here who's trying to try and do their jobs. You know, it's not always perfect. It's not always pretty. It's, you know, the guy who's had the prettiest practices is a guy like Dak Prescott. You know, he's had some really pretty practices here.
Yeah.
You know? And so, to me, with Mazi, they continue to stay on him, and I stay on him in a way of not like MFing him the whole time or, you know, yelling at him the whole time, but they want to make sure they need to get better. Like Aisha and I were talking about, they need to get better at defensive tackle as a whole.
Yeah.
You know, they need to figure out, and like Osa, capable. Osa, 12, 13 weeks in the season, pretty darn good. What happens the last 4 weeks of the season? He kind of goes away. You know, he needs to work on his conditioning, needs to work on, you know, the finish and all that. They got to figure out what Golston's situation is. Is he the backup 3? What's going on with Rodgers? Do they have, you know, is Carl Davis, can they get something out of these 3s? Are they going to have to look at outside? Linville Joseph, is he in the mix? I mean, there's a lot of things that this team's looking at. And with Mazi, you know, there's days where you're like, and this is where scouts are taught, you know, and I was always told this. If you see it one day, you could see it again. You're capable of doing these, and he's capable. He had a really good pass rush move the other day going to his left. He looked quick. He was able to escape. He was able to, like, get the blocker's hands down and then able to work the corner. You know, those are the things. So you see it. It's not all bad for Mazi Smith. But there's been, like, when you do see the other day, like Justin Rogers, you know, there's a little bit more up the field. There's a little bit more of using technique. There's a little bit more of trying to do what they're asking him to do. And I think that's where Mazi's at right now. He's trying to do what they're asking him to do. But when he doesn't have success, you can kind of tell that it drags him down. You know, it's like anybody in life. I don't want to read people to tell me. I always joke with people when I see him on the fence line here. I throw, oh yeah, Broaddus, love you, man, love you, love you, love you, and I'm like, yeah, make sure you tell me when I suck too, though. You know, don't always tell me you love me, and then, you know. But nobody wants to hear that they're struggling or having a bad day at the office. Nobody wants to hear that. You know, and Mazi, and I think Mike Zimmer understands it. I think Jeff Zagina. I think everybody. I think the front office understands it. You know, I think they all understand. They need Mazi Smith to play at a good level, and they're working hard to do that. And Mazi's trying. Is it always successful? No, and that's why you see some of the people say, "Oh, really good day," and then others say, "You know, didn't get the job done today." And I think if Mazi Smith were to develop some type of consistency from practice to practice to practice, and we're going to be out here, you know, the Rams are coming over here on Thursday, and then we got some preseason games we're going to deal with. You know, you need to see Mazi Smith have some success, and I think if Mazi Smith has success, I think his demeanor, the mental stuff, all that stuff will improve, because he takes this, he does take it personally. But he's hearing all of us, and I don't know if that's good. I don't know if it's bad, but there is a lot of people watching him, and also Trey Lance. You know, there's a lot of eyes on Trey Lance. There's a lot of eyes on Mazi Smith. There's a lot of eyes on Guyton. There's a lot of eyes on Tolbert. You know, there's some guys that you're either going to
sink or swim.
You're going to, and I always tell players this when I used to talk. I'm like, listen, training camp, we don't cut you. You cut yourself. You know, and there's some guys out here that are having some really good practices. Every day I could say something about Hunter Lipke that will, you know, and it just, but that's what you got to do. Consistency. Like, Billy Johnson, the wide receiver.
Billy Johnson.
He's a veteran guy, 4-year guy. Receivers run all day. It's a hard position. A lot of things going on. You know, it's not easy. but you got to stack days. You can't have bad days out here practicing. And there's been days where Mozzie's been fine, and there's days where Mozzie hasn't been fine. And I think the coaching staff would tell you that.
Yeah, I think, even a guy who I've seen nothing but rave reviews and just consistency is Jalen Tolbert, a guy who, hey, I was trying to draft a receiver in a loaded class. He comes in and he looks like he could be poised for a 700-yard year. The way he's practicing, I would love that. Okay, Bryan, I want to go through each rookie.
Yeah.
And we're going to start with Tyler Guyton. Now, he hasn't practiced the last 2 days, but I watch your shows with Vach. I watch you with 105. You don't have to stay too long here, but what now do you think of Tyler Guyton actually seeing it on the ground? And we'll go through each one.
Yeah, I think the thing with Tyler Guyton is that, to me, you could tell that he's played big-time football, because there was a situation we got here where Adoga was running with the ones.
Yes.
And then Adoga got a lower back injury. He was struggling with some tightness or something, and then all of a sudden Guyton got thrown in with the ones. And then Guyton's first rep was against, Tank, and it was a running play, and he did just fine. And then it became Parsons and Tank, and then and others, Nealon were going against him. So he every time that he got an opportunity, and I was talking to Nate Newton about this yesterday, I was ready for him. The longer that he went, the more likely he was going to fall apart technique wise. Not perfect, but he didn't completely crumble playing against
some guys.
Parsons. Yeah, some dudes that, like, Parsons legitimately can ruin your day. And it's just like Tyler Smith going against Mozzie, going against Tyler Smith can ruin your day. Mozzie's day can get ruined by going against Zach Martin. It happens. It happens. And that's the one good thing about this practice out here, is that the ones play the ones. It's not nobody's hiding out here. Nobody's hiding. So I think for the week of pads that we've had, I wish he'd have gotten scrimmage yesterday, but he didn't. Hopefully he'll be better tomorrow. Hope he'll be better tomorrow. But I think the initial view of him has been positive.
Bryan, Marshawn Nealon. I'm actually pleasantly surprised with his hands and his strength, his speed and power.
Yeah.
Where are you at on Nealon?
I was wrong about him. And we'll see once we start playing games.
Why were you wrong, Bryan? Because I
didn't think he was as bendy as he was. I didn't think he was coming out of Western Michigan. And I'm going to ask him this question because there's something, maybe training, like all the linemen go see Duke, and Duke kind of fixes their feet and their hands and all that stuff like that. I think that I think there was something with Nealon, because I didn't see this bendy of a player. I didn't see a guy that with the quickness, the burst, the first step. He's got that. I thought, man, this is going to be a rush down the middle, play with power, and never get off blocks guy. Never have, no. He's got edge ability. He's got first step quickness. He's a strong guy. He can play either side. You lose Sam Williams, and I mean, this kid, from what he's done right off the jump, it's pretty, he's got some traits that Sam Williams didn't have.
I wanted to ask you, I see the pop in the hands, Bryan.
Yeah,
in the snapback.
The strength is really good.
Okay.
But he's going to learn pass rush moves. He's going to get better at that. He and Micah Parsons. Micah kind of sees it. Micah's been working with him a little bit on it. So that part of it's been really, really helpful for him.
Okay. Now, this is the one that I think people want to know about, Bryan. And I have my thoughts about it, but I want to get yours first, and then I'll jump in. Cooper Beebe, why? Like, why is it taking longer? I think fans just had this romanticized thought of
probably because
day one.
Me.
Well, no. Well,
the draft show.
Well, you got to think, Bryan. He was everybody's draft darling.
Yeah.
Stephen Jones calls him out by name as Cooper's going to help us immediately. So it's not just Bryan Broadus. Foots is, man, you would have drafted him last year in the first round. This year, I mean, teams forgot about him.
Yeah.
What is it just the snaps? Is it more than that? Is it the ID and the mic? What is it, Brian? Because fans want to know.
The learning curve. The
Okay.
learning curve. I thought the learning curve for Guyton was going to be steeper from playing right to left tackle.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been. The thing that we misjudged about BB was that he was a center early in his career and then went to go play tackle and went to play guard and played other positions and kind of dabbled as a center. And yeah, the snaps are going to take used to, but hands, feet, like yesterday, he had a situation where he got to the second level on a block clean, and he was a step. I mean, just a step late of getting Leah foul. Leah foul just read it quick and ran, and so, there's things like when he's playing guard, he's probably on Leah foul, and there's no problem because it's the snap of the ball. He steps, he's second level, and he's on the guy in space.
Yeah.
With him having a snap, step, now go. He's a really bright kid. He's strong. You could see that. You can see he's tough. The learning curve at center is no joke.
Yeah, it's the snap, then the processing. It's a lot.
Well, it's the process. I think the processing part. I don't think he's had any bust that I could see that I looked like, oh, that was just a terrible play. But where it is, it's the snap, step, get to where you need to be, and that's going to take him a little bit to get used to because it's something like Travis Frederick, guys like that. It's the thing that Brock Hoffman's able to kind of do because he's accustomed to.
He's done it.
And he's done it. And BB did it, but maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago. It's taken him some. It's going to take him some time, and that's where we're at. Hoffman is likely going to be your center. And we'll see if BB's going to get plenty of work in these preseason games. He's going to play. Me personally, I know that Vach and I were talking about this. I kind of felt like Vach asked me, he goes, well, you play him at guard, you play him at – they're going to do both. But to me, I let him play center because that's the one area that he's not – he needs to learn, again, how to play the position. And playing center in the NFL is no joke. I mean, it's no joke with these guys.
Yeah.
So that's where he's at right now. It's not the fact that the kid's a bum or any type of a bad player or getting beat up. He just the learning curve right now is a lot steeper, and we thought the learning curve would be smaller because of how he's been able to play guard, tackle, play all these positions.
Yeah, play all these. I think, and I think that the O-line coaches, they're all on 1-year deals. I think he's looking at it like, man, I don't know if I can just throw a rookie center and rookie tackle. I mean, 5 is 1 when it comes to O-line play.
Yeah, I tell you the one thing, Mike Solari, we've interviewed Mike a bunch, and Mike, every time we brought up Cooper Beebe, Mike reminded us of
about Brock Hoffman. Every time, you're right. It's like the deflection was there, Brian.
Every single time that we brought it. Well, hey, what about Cooper Beebe? Well, what about Brock Hoffman? What about Brock Hoffman? And so I think that's, I'm not disagreeing with you about a rookie center. And if they were really, 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 really bad at center and they didn't have, Brock Hoffman's had a good camp. Brock's been fine. But I think the learning curve is what's getting Cooper Beebe right now.
And we'll see it. Brock will get his opportunity, live bullets against some good tackles if he's going to start. I mean, because there's some great D tackles in the NFC East. So that's another ball game. Okay, Brian, Maris Luafau, I can honestly say this. I was high on him being drafted, and I think I confirmed that this guy plays downhill with his hair literally on fire. Brian, what have you seen from Maris Luafau?
I'll tell you what, though, I think you got the player right. He's super smart. He actually helps. He actually helps Damone Clark when he's in there. Like Clark kind of needs, like he's like, okay, Clark's one of the best athletes they got at linebacker.
I've heard Clark's been playing well from you guys.
He has. Clark's actually been playing well. I'm not saying it because he's an LSU guy, but Clark is actually in this scheme is playing really well. The thing with Leufau is that he can run. He's got instincts. He looks at formations. He's able when he and Hendricks are in there, playing next to, or excuse me, Kendricks is in there playing next to each other. These are two dudes that are reading so fast, and they're getting there. And I think that's the thing with Marist was able yesterday. They brought him on a blitz
off
the right side, and like he got home free. It's like Smith and our left tackle there, just they set wide. Awesome Richards, they set wide to try and handle a blitz, and then 35 just came straight up the gut. And so they missed that pickup, but his instincts and his ability to read plays is pretty impressive.
Nice. And I just think that it's a few times that I saw him taking on blocks, and I'm like, okay,
he's quick getting off blocks too.
Well, Brian, that it was last year, and when we were getting, +1 in the run game, whether it was a pulling guard, whether it was all these schemes that OCs are trying to do, fullbacks coming at you, whatever it is. And I just never saw our linebackers take those blocks on, because it goes back to what you said about assignments. Okay, you got a guy coming at you. Well, now, hey, you can step aside and give up more running lanes, or you could take that block on head up, and now you're cutting down those. That's a 1 yard gain, whether it being a 3 yard gain. You see, I'm just so passionate about it, Brian. And I see this guy, this rookie, stepping up and meeting Hunter Luepke in the hole, and it's a car crash. And I'm like, okay, that's going to set the tone. You see some of that, and now you see Kendricks just knife through because he knows what's going on. But some of that physicality, Brian, I'm just like, man, I missed it. And then with Overshown's physicality, I missed it. I miss seeing guys getting hit. So I think that's pretty cool that you're confirming that. Okay, Brian, a couple more, and then I'll let you go. Kalen Carson, we haven't seen anything from Ryan Flournoy, but Kalen Carson and Nate Thomas, what have you seen from them? I know Todd Archer just came out. He had a tweet, and he was talking about Carson possibly being cornerback 3, and then Jordan Lewis gets all upset. And now these guys, Brian, they love Twitter. I'm like, yo, y'all at camp, put the phones down. Let us do this. Just let it play out. Jordan, relax. Nobody's coming at you. But if the reporter sees something, why they get so mad, bro? What's going on with these guys, dude?
Well, I know Mike Zimmer for a fact loves J. Lou. He does love him some J. Lou. The thing with Carson is how competitive he really is. And he's super tough. And when the ball's in the air, he might not intercept it, but what he's going to do is he has a really good feel for how to put his hand in the right place, maybe knock a pass away or rip a ball out. He is really good when it turns into like hand-to-hand combat for the ball. And okay, Jay Lou's not going to like this when he's watching this show with you and I talking here. My dream before this was all starting was for Carson to be so good that they'd have to play him in the nickel, but they would play Bland inside, and they would play Carson on the outside. So Diggs, Carson, Bland would be your guys. But I'll tell you what, Jordan Lewis has had a good camp. He is far more active than any other time I've seen him play. There's, we always talk about how great he was against the Saints that day, dealing with their weapons. But he has been super on point where he needs to be. There's been a couple times where, down in the red zone, they got lost, they got picked, they got bumped off, or they blew an assignment, but they correct it. And he's had far more good plays than he's had bad plays. But Carson, I mean, he's he has shown up. If you were to talk to the front office guys, if Will McClay were sitting next to me right now, I guarantee you the first guy he would probably mention of the rookies might be Carson. Might be Carson. He's been that good.
And Bryan, to me, I understand Jordan Lewis is I get it, but the thing is,
Jordan Lewis will if players tell you they don't listen, they don't pay attention,
it's a lie.
just remind them of Jordan Lewis.
Dude.
Jordan Lewis hears everything you say about him. Everything.
And Jordan, listen, you watch this video.
He'll respond to everything too.
But the problem is this, Bryan. We're gonna need all of them. Like, it's okay. It's if somebody's gonna get hurt, Carson will have his ups and downs. Jordan, nobody's throwing you off the boat. But if the guy's playing good football, nothing is this. Carson tackles. Like, they're not tackling to the ground at practice, but like when it gets live bullets, we have seen him lay his body around. So I think that's cool. Bryan, Flournoy hasn't done anything, which I don't like that. And I won't
kind of looking like a practice squad player right now.
Yeah, I mean, with the way these receivers are doing things. What are you seeing from Thomas? And then we'll close out with Rodgers and anybody else that you want to talk about.
Yeah, I tell you what, the thing with Thomas, I think Thomas for a young guy, his body type is not that of a great athlete. But he's got some power in his upper body. He's going to have to develop a little bit, like with the feet. I think there's been some really, really, really good reps with him in the one-on-one individual, one-on-one pass rush drills. Yeah, and then he's worked well when they've go 3-on-2 with the twist game stuff. He's been able to physically pass stunts, pass players, and then not be out of position, not be turned, not be sideways and stuff like that. He's had some good moments, and then he's had moments where his feet have kind of got him in trouble a little bit. Maybe his feet were a little slow out of a stance, and then it kind of affected him to where the defender got up on him and got around him, and now he was having to struggle to recover. The body type and stuff, man, he is a big square guy.
Yeah.
And I like that about him. I like his strength. He hasn't had any really bust that I've noticed where it's just people running free. But I think the feet are going to need a little bit work with him.
Cleaning.
But the power and the ability to understand what he needs to do, pretty spot on.
Okay. And just finishing up with Rodgers, you kind of teased that one early.
Yeah.
The ability to push the pockets and do some things like that. How's he held up?
Yeah, the thing with Rodgers is that he's the one guy that of the nose tackles. And trust me, we're all watching these guys. We're all watching the noses and the ones and trying to kind of figure that out. But he's the one guy when you watch, like TJ Bass has had some practices where he hasn't been great. And you kind of feel like that TJ Bass is a guy that if you had to start a game, that if something happened to one of these guards, that TJ Bass would be the guy that they would put in there. And maybe TJ Bass is a little bit of a gamer, but there's been some times where Rodgers has been able to get to the edge on him. And as a one technique, a big guy, that's if you got some pass rush moves or have an understanding of how to free yourself. It's that part of it's been really, really encouraging. I've seen him a lot in the one-on-one stuff. I'm looking forward to seeing him against the Rams in this work on Thursday, and then he'll get a lot of opportunities in the game. I think that he's got to work a little bit more on to be a little bit square on the take on. Because there's times where he gets moved, he's trying to hold a gap and gets moved, and then the ball comes behind that block, and he's got to learn to just to get rid of that blocker and then to squeeze the play. But to me, I've really appreciated that he's trying to do everything that Jeff Sagina is asking him to do when it comes to hands, feet. If you want to squeeze the hole, throw your hip in there, don't let the blockers take you out of there. But he's trying to do that, and who knows? They are looking right now. They're looking. We got Mazian, but they are looking for somebody to be that go-to guy, hang your hat on guy to play that one technique. And he's in a little bit of a battle for that right now.
And do it well. And like we just said about J. Lou, guys, we're going to throw enough stuff at the wall for it to stick. Bryan, like I said pre-show, I think fans appreciate when you go into the detail that you do. The recollection is just incredible. People are watching it, but when you're on the ground and you're getting this amount of detail, all I can say is thank you. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
From what I gathered, I'm going to do a ranking. From what I gathered, if we had to start tomorrow, I think that hearing you, I would go Kalen Carson has been probably 1-1. Mm-hmm. I would go Maris and Guyton at 2. Mm-hmm. Actually, I don't know. You could probably put Nealon in there.
Nealon's been pretty darn good.
Yeah, we'll do a 3-way tie for 2. Cooper needs to pick it up with the snaps and the other things like that. Ross is coming along, and Flournoy just hasn't practiced. So far it sounds like it's good. We'll see. They play on Sunday, August 11th. West Coast time it'll be different, but they play it in the afternoon. So Bryan, I'm very excited for preseason game. Thank you for checking in with us throughout training camp. I'll be giving you a call. I'll be bothering you after the game, and hopefully we'll get some work in. But thank you so much, brother.
Sounds good, man. Great being with you, Foots. Thanks again. Take care.
All right. As always, it's your boy, Foots the King. Thank you guys for liking, sharing, and subscribing. Bryan Broadus, the GOAT. Blessed, alive. We love y'all. Peace.